Hello, it's Rebecca and today is another book review day, and this is my fourth, maybe, book that I am reading for the Wordy Birds reading challenge. The Wordy Birds is a show that my friend Jane and I do on the radio, and I'll leave some links down below so you can check us out on all of our social media. And we've decided to do a reading challenge to read 12 books over the year, one book per month, and then each month we talk about what books we've been reading on our radio show, and if anyone wants to join in, they can send us their book reviews and we can talk about them on the radio show as well, so that's quite cool. So the category for this month was a book written in the second person, which is something I chose because I do enjoy reading books in the second person. They're very rare and people are so used to reading I did this and I said that, or he, she, it did, blah blah blah, and second person perspective is written from the point of view. And it kind of really draws you into the story so that you as a reader actually become part of the story and you feel like the author is talking to you, which I like. Jane was not too happy about this and she made that very clear, but it's good to read things outside of your comfort zone. So I have been reading, but I haven't finished, and I will explain why later on, A Million Little Mistakes by Heather McElhatton. So I will read you the blurb and then talk to you about the book. You can't believe it. You've actually won the lottery. So what happens next? It's entirely up to you. Do you get out of debt, quit your job, travel the world, go on the shopping spree of a lifetime? The possibilities are endless. In A Million Little Mistakes, you get to decide where your story goes from here. It's time to choose your own adventure. Remember, life is full of surprises. So, if you are a child of the 80s or possibly the 70s, you may have read Choose Your Own Adventure stories. And these are books where you start off going on an adventure and you come to the end of the first chapter and it says, do you want to go into the cave or do you want to climb up the mountain? So you decide what you want to do. So if you want to go into the cave, you then go to that chapter. It will say go to chapter 3 or turn to page 15 or something like that. And you carry on throughout the book, having two options at the end of every chapter. And by the time you finish that, you can go back to the beginning and make another choice. And rather than go into the cave, you can go up the mountain and then choose all these different things, what you do, where you go, what you eat, who you talk to, all of that kind of stuff. And this is a grown-up version of it. I was so excited when I found it. And I cannot emphasize enough how much I am enjoying reading this book. And while I say I'm enjoying reading it, it's because I haven't finished it, because I'm trying to take every path possible through this book, and it's taking a very, very long time. I think I've read about 15 or 20 different stories by choosing this one, then this one, then this one, and then going back and choosing that one, then this one, then this one. And it's really good. So I'll just read you a little bit from the beginning, which tells you how to read the book. And it's actually called How to Read This Book. Don't read this book straight through as you would a normal book. If you did, it would seem like a collage of many different stories, none of them making any sense. Instead, start on page 1, and at the end of that section, you'll have a choice to make. Make it and turn directly to the corresponding section. In this way, you'll control the story and the outcome of your chosen life. As in real life, good behaviour is not always rewarded, and bad decisions can sometimes lead to wonderful and not so wonderful results. When you reach the end of your journey, return to the beginning or anywhere else along the way where you'd like a second chance. The trick is to never turn back and always follow your gut. You never know what life may bring or what miracles are up ahead, speeding toward you as fast as they possibly can. So, I can't even, so good. So I'm going to tell you about a few of the stories that I've read, and it's not going to create any spoilers because when you read this, you might not take the same path. You might go a completely different way and end up somewhere else. So the very first story that I read, I quit my job after winning the lottery. It always starts off on page 1 with you winning the lottery. And you make a choice whether or not to stay in your job or to leave your job. So I left my job and I stayed with my partner, but then I needed something to do with the money, so I invested it in real estate and ended up running off with the guy who was teaching me all about real estate, and we got together and I bought a house that somebody had died in, or an old lady had died, and she'd left all her wonderful belongings in there. And I had to make a choice whether or not to just sell the house because it was a bit weird or creepy, or to explore and have a look around the house. And I went down into the basement and I found a coffin. And I had the choice whether or not to open the coffin or leave it closed and just leave the house. I opened the coffin, and the old woman whose house it was kind of appeared and killed me and turned me into a zombie, which was just absolutely amazing. That was such a brilliant first story, and I'm glad that I made those choices. And then there's been stories where I have travelled to the bottom of the ocean to look around the Titanic. I have bought a house from a woman who used to keep slaves and torture slaves in, you know, sort of like the early 1900s. I've bought a lighthouse on a deserted island, which then gets used as a place where drug smugglers meet. I've been homeless. I've gone on a cruise of a lifetime that got taken over by pirates. So many things. I've lived, I've died, I've travelled all over the world, and I still haven't finished this book, and I want to just keep going. And I thought it would take so long for me to actually read everything in this book. There's about 400 pages, about 500 pages, over 100 different chapters. But like I say, at the end of each chapter, you move on to something else, and you can go back and up and down and around. And the author has really chosen some interesting paths, because it starts off quite tedious. Stay in your job, leave your job. Stay with your partner, leave your partner. Give your money to your family to help someone who's dying, keep it for yourself. So it starts off a little bit kind of tedious, which is how it would be. I mean, if we won the lottery, that's how we'd think. What do we do kind of within our very small circle? And then it takes you on these amazing adventures. And the one with the Titanic, I was in like a pod thing and it got stuck. And I even started to feel kind of claustrophobic while reading it. It's so brilliantly put together, so brilliantly written. And it really makes you think about what you would do. So there are moral questions, and what would you do in this situation, and how would you behave? And honestly, I haven't finished it, but I am so excited to keep reading it. And it's the kind of book that you pick up and put down. You read one set of stories and you just end up in really random places. Oh, I married like a millionaire or something, which was really weird because I was already a millionaire, and ended up being like a debutante or something. I don't know. There's just so many amazing things. So read this. I cannot emphasize enough just how good this is, how much fun it is to read, how much it took me back to my childhood with the choose your own adventure stories. And it's all written in second person and you're involved in the story, and this is absolutely amazing. So like I said, I'm going to continue reading this. I borrowed it from the library and then I bought my own copy because I thought I don't want to give it back. I want to keep reading and reading and reading this, and I've forgotten a lot of what I've done. So it's going to be one of those books that you can just keep reading. And how brilliant is that? Just how amazingly brilliant. So I'm so glad I found this, so glad I bought it, and I cannot praise it enough. It's so, so good. So if you'd like to hear any of my other book reviews, then please subscribe. I put videos out every time I've read a book or done something bookish, which mainly involves buying books and not knowing where to put them. So if you're interested in anything like that, then please subscribe, and I will see you soon. Have a good day. Bye-bye.